Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to talk confidently. I know this might seem weird for me to talk about, because in videos I use like a lot of filler words. Like, you know, so, and but that S actually a really good example of something that I am doing right now, which is talking to an audience. This isn't a one-on-one conversation, and that changes things. So if you are preparing to have a conversation with somebody, and you want to come across more confidently, I have some tips for you. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is just general confidence. It doesn't matter how confidently you talk, if you don't feel confident, it's gonna shine through. So what are some ways to boost your confidence? I do have another video on this topic that I will link below. But essentially, what comes down to confidence is your belief in yourself and your belief in your ability to succeed. Confidence isn't arrogance. Arrogance is an inflated sense of self-worth that isn't necessarily backed up by anything. Confidence is having a realistic view of your abilities and also being able to recognize those abilities. When you start to believe in yourself, when you start to have confidence in yourself, that radiates. It shines through in your demeanor, it shines through in your speech. The second thing I want to talk about is your body language. How you carry yourself says a lot about how you feel inside. Are you sitting up straight? Are you making eye contact? Are you smiling? A lot of these things are very telling. Another thing that is really important is to pay attention to the other person. And I think this is something that has improved in my life since I started talking to people more, because when you're having a conversation, oftentimes we are thinking about what we going to say next, or we rehearsing what we going to say next. But it's also a time to listen. You need to pay attention to the person in front of you and how they are reacting. If you're on your phone, if you're not making eye contact, if you're not engaged in the conversation, then that sends a message that maybe you don't feel confident. It also sends a message that you aren't interested. The third tip I want to share with you all is to take care of yourself. That means taking care of your appearance, making sure you smell nice, making sure you look presentable. I know this isn't everyone's priority, but it does make a difference. It does make a difference how you present yourself to other people. And I'm not saying you have to wear a suit and tie to go talk to someone, but you do want to make sure you smell nice, you look presentable. The other part of taking care of yourself is making sure you eat well and you exercise. Taking care of your body is going to help you feel better about yourself, which again radiates from within. Let's move on to actual speaking techniques that you can use to sound more confident. I always tell people that you need to slow down. Speed isn't always the best way to go. It allows for pauses, for breaths, for moments where you can collect your thoughts. One thing that will make you sound more confident is talking slower, taking pauses, taking breaths, allowing for those natural pauses in your speech. Another thing that you want to avoid when talking more confidently is filler words. Filler words are things like so, and like, and yes. I use them too, but I do find that in videos they make me sound less credible. They make me sound less confident. Now that's okay because I am talking to an audience here. This isn't a one-on-one conversation, but something to keep in mind when you're talking to somebody one-on-one. You want to avoid filler words. If you know that you use a lot of filler words, try to keep track of it throughout the day, throughout the week. See how many filler words you use. I guarantee it's going to be more than you think. And the way you stop using filler words is you have to be mindful of them. Once you're aware of them, you can start to work on minimizing them. So the next tip I have for you is when you're having a conversation, control the narrative. Control the narrative by being mindful of what you are presenting about yourself. Are you only focusing on negative things? Are you only highlighting the bad things? Maybe the conversation is about a job interview you went on. Did you only talk about how badly you did? You talked about how you messed up. You talked about how you forgot things. You talked about all of the reasons why you probably didn't get the job. When in reality, you should have controlled the narrative by highlighting the positive aspects of the interview. Yes, you may have stumbled over your words here and there, but you made eye contact and you were polite and you had great stories to share and you came prepared. You need to be mindful of the story that you are telling about yourself. Make sure you highlight the best parts of yourself, the best parts of the experience, whatever you're talking about. The next thing I want to talk about is vocal variety. Vocal variety is important when you're talking to somebody one-on-one. When you're talking to an audience, yeah, it's good to have vocal variety, but it's not as necessary. But that's why I can kind of get away with just talking to the camera and sounding the same throughout my entire video. But when you're talking to someone one-on-one, you want to change the pitch of your voice. You want to emphasize different points. You want to maybe even raise your voice occasionally. Just be mindful of how you sound, because if you sound monotone, it makes you sound disinterested. It makes you sound uninterested in the conversation. Something else you want to do when talking to somebody, especially if you are trying to convince them of something, is emphasize key points. Emphasize key points with your voice. Raise your voice slightly, draw out the words. Be mindful of what points you are emphasizing because that tells the other person what is important. If you're going in for a job interview, for example, and you want to emphasize that you have previous experience, say it with emphasis, say it with conviction. Tell the interviewer that you have previous experience. Don't mumble it, don't hide it. Be proud of it. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your accomplishments. Another tip I have for you when it comes to talking more confidently is to speak from the diaphragm. I know this sounds super technical and super hard, but essentially what I mean by this is, speak from your stomach. You want to have good posture and you want to be upright, but you also want to make sure you're breathing properly. Good posture means shoulders back, chest out, but you also want to breathe from the diaphragm. You want to breathe from your stomach. You want to engage those abdominal muscles when you're talking. You'll see a lot of actors and actresses do this. They will put their hand on their chest and they won't move much. They'll move their stomach forward and back as they talk because that engages the diaphragm. That engages the abdominal muscles and it makes your voice ring. It makes your voice resonate. It makes you sound more confident. And the last tip I have for you is to practice. Practice makes perfect. And when it comes to talking more confidently, it definitely helps. No matter how confident you are, no matter how well you can talk, everybody can improve. Everybody can improve on the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. Every single person. So if you want to sound more confident, practice talking more confidently. And I know this is easier said than done, but it does get better with practice. Try talking to yourself in the mirror. Try recording yourself while you're talking to yourself in the mirror. Try talking to friends. Have them give you feedback. What did you do well? What could you improve upon? And never stop learning. Never stop improving. Always be working on your communication skills, working on your confidence, and before you know it, you'll be talking with such confidence. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed these tips. I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.